I thought by now, we're midway through February. It's still a little bit early. Maybe they're delaying it a little bit because they want to get into it. But so far, like the Republican hearings about Hunter Biden's laptop and Twitter being suppressive and this and that, they don't seem to be resonating. I'm sure that they're on 24/7 on Fox, but they don't seem to be dictating the media narrative.
No.
Right now, the media narrative, it seems to me, and maybe I'm wrong, is the Republicans going around saying Joe Biden's lying about Social Security. Like, we don't want to cut it, they say hesitantly, and then add qualifiers. But I think part of the reason why there's a two-step thing going on here. Part of the reason why it's not gaining traction in the House, I think, is because of people like AOC, who gets up there and within like one 90-second TikTok video or Instagram video completely blows apart their entire sort of like narrative. Completely blows it apart and makes it impossible for any sort of like beltway media type to repeat it without immediately being debunked. And Sargent writes about Maxwell Frost. He's the, I guess he's the first Gen Z member of Congress. What does that mean? He's like the first one in like your age, like mid-20s. And he's, I don't know if is he considered a Justice Democrat?
Yes.
I think he is, right?
Definitely squad
He's definitely
adjacent.
progressive, right. And squad adjacent, as it were. And Sargent's writing about this guy and making a point that I think, frankly, that I've been making for some time, which is one big difference between this younger generation of Democrats and the older generation of Democrats, aside from, I think, largely being more progressive generally, is that even the ones that aren't ideologically, sort of aligned with, let's say, the squad and whatnot, they understand that this is partisan politics. And the way to win, even if what you're trying to win is not necessarily the policies that I want, the way you win and beat Republicans is to simply just sort of like mock them or pull them apart. Here's a couple of clips, and all he has to do right now is basically, because they're not, I would hope that they're starting to think about like, what kind of legislation would we pass if we were in the majority? But right now they're just on committees and they're dealing with the committee work. What do we got here for what is it? The border clip. Okay, yeah. Well, play the border clip, because one of the talking points we just, we hear from the Republicans all the time is that open borders and the administration is not doing anything about the open borders, and the country's going to hell in a handbasket because of the open borders. And here is go ahead.
It's unfortunate that this hearing started off with a ton of hyperbole and posturing, saying that President Biden and his administration have created the worst border crisis in American history. That isn't about oversight. It's about stoking the fears of immigrants and those seeking asylum. And it's something I take personally as a son of a Cuban refugee. Look, for many folks around the country who might only watch far-right media or just listen to even some of the folks on this committee, I'm curious, Chief Chavez, when President Biden took office, did your agents stop enforcing the border and just allow everybody to come in, thus creating what we hear here is an open border? Did that happen when the president took office?
Sir, thank you for your question. The answer is no, sir.
Okay,
we
thank
continue
you.
to enforce policy and laws.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Chief Modlin, when President Biden took office, did the border just open and did y'all stop enforcing your policies?
Also, thank you for your question, sir. I can tell you this, the fifth administration I've worked for, starting with the Clinton administration, and Border Patrol agents do their job every day.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Look, as y'all probably realize by now, a lot of these hearings are not really about solutions. They're about politics. And for me, I believe solutions must be rooted in facts.
I don't know why it's taken so long for a Democrat to come in and talk that way. Now maybe he gets more attention because he's younger, and
it's the oversight committee, so he has like the capacity. This is exactly what he's there to do, right?
Well, this is the interesting thing too, is that they've put, I mean, he's a freshman congressperson, and this committee leadership must know that there's a lot of stuff going to come out of this committee, and that is all going to be rhetorical.
Yeah, that's
right?
why they put AOC on the oversight committee when she first entered Congress. They want to harness the progressive young energy for partisan purposes. There is at least that understanding within leadership.
And this is going to be important because down the road, the Democratic caucus is moving to the left. It simply is. You know, I don't even know what happened to the Blue Dog Democrats. What happened after they all broke up because they didn't like their name and there was only like 8 of them or whatever it was. The progressive faction in the House is going to grow. And I'm talking about the legitimately progressive one, not necessarily the progressive caucus, which is, you know, more like, I don't know, the good housekeeping seal for progressives. And it really doesn't take much to get in there. But there's a core and it's growing. Frost is, one of the latest, and Summer Lee, and a couple others from Texas, and I can't remember his name.
Greg Casar.
And there's a couple others, and it's growing, and it's going to take a while. There's no doubt. But what's also important is that the only way these people are going to be able to influence policy is if the Democrats have control of the House. Obviously, you need the Senate and you need the presidency as well. But the only way they're going to be able to control policy is if they have it. And so there's 2 things that has to happen. There has to be, A, good politics in terms of ideological and in terms of issues. But also you need to understand partisanship. You need to understand how to perform politics. And that's what these younger people know how to do, it seems to me. Do we have a second clip of him?
There's a clip about him talking about the Chrissy Teigen tweet. It's slightly stitched up because his team edited it, but there's also one about Hunter Biden's laptop.
Oh yeah, do the Hunter Biden's laptop one.
Yeah, 1 second.
Okay. 100%. Well, there you have it. There's issues of big tech. There are serious issues we need to litigate. Hunter Biden's laptop is not one of them. And like many of my colleagues have said, we need to talk about these issues, how January 6th maybe could have been prevented if Twitter had taken action due to the hateful speech, and how we have foreign interference in our elections. Why are folks on this committee so obsessed with Twitter's editorial decision on Hunter Biden's laptop? Would they hold the same hearings of the editorial decisions of Fox News and Newsmax? Free speech is about the government limiting speech around about the public.
The only thing that's interesting to me about that too, I mean, in addition to him like pushing back on that thing, is that Twitter is supposedly not a publisher. Mm-hmm. And I mean, at one point, there's going to have to be a reckoning.
That's Section 230.
That's Section 230. And there's going to, and the reason why Twitter and these other non-publishers, just platforms, police themselves is because they don't want the liability that is involved with Section 230. Because again, this is, I mean, maybe not as dramatic, maybe it is, I don't know, relative to the train derailment. These companies want to socialize any costs associated with them not spending money on actual moderation. And those costs may come in the form of, child trafficking or spreading hate or, whatever it is. But they don't want to pay for it. They don't want to pay for moderation. And they also, and the way they avoid that by having government come after them is to do their own moderation. In the same way that, companies advertise or don't advertise on things because they don't want to be associated with it because it's bad for their business.